All right, everyone, welcome back to the Change Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Kris Ashley, and I'm really stoked to have my guest on today. This is Todd Baker. He is a coach with Project 9 Life, but what I'm really excited about is Todd and I have had several conversations lately where we are just vibing. We are on the same alignment, and it's everything from life coaching to spirituality to what's going on with social media. And even just before we press record, we were geeking out. So we decided to press record, bring you in on this conversation. Hi, I'm Kris. When I was younger, I went through trauma that caused me to feel broken and lost. But my life changed after I had a spiritual awakening. Since then, I've dedicated my life to studying and learning from masters all around the world that have helped me to create a life of fulfillment and abundance beyond my wildest dreams. Now I'm dedicated to sharing everything I've learned so that you don't have to suffer for decades like I did. I've seen people's lives completely transform, and I share it all right here. And so, Todd, I'm really excited you're here today.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too. Especially with an introduction like that. Yeah,
I know. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes we just got to wing it and keep it casual. Well, that's what we were just talking about, right? That so often you see these people online, like your Alex Hormozis and your Grant Cardones and your Russell Brunsons, and it's like they're almost like subhuman. But it turns out a lot of us life coaches are actually people, right?
Yeah. It's we learned from those guys, but what we learned was kind of like how to structure stuff and everything like that. But you're right. The stories that we share and the experiences that we draw from are our own. I'm not drawing from, Grant's upbringing or Russell's or yours. It's like I teach what I teach and I coach what I coach because of like what stuff that I went through, which is different than what you went through. And, it's just drawing on all those things, but we're just real people like anyone else. And it's just, we've chosen a different path.
Totally. And don't you think it makes someone a better coach when they've actually been through stuff and can empathize with their clients?
Yeah, well, and I actually heard, and I've implored this actually, is like you shouldn't, if you're looking for a coach, you should not be looking for the coach that is miles ahead of you, like like a Tony or something like that, to where all the good that they've done throughout their lives and their careers, like if you're struggling with currently, or you're trapped with currently where you're at, like you probably shouldn't go that route because they're so far ahead. What you need to look for is a coach that's maybe 2 or 3 steps ahead of you. So it's recent, it's topical, it makes sense because you're going through the same stuff about the same time. And you and I were going to be able to speak a different language to people than and Tony's great. I mean, he's amazing. He's done unbelievable things throughout his career, but he is so far evolved from, being trapped and just starting out, that it's almost a different language that they're talking about.
Yeah, is it almost like it's hard for him to even connect with people at that level because it's just there's such a barrier there, there's so much space there, like, and we're just like so much closer on the path?
Yeah, I think that's a lot to do with it, and I think a lot of it is just timing. It's if you ask Tony, like, when the last time he flew commercial was, he's going to be like, he's going to be like, what do you mean? Like, but it's not that their message doesn't carry as much weight. It's just people that are going through stuff, they're looking at him as that's my ultimate goal, is to get up to there, but you don't get to skip those steps in between. That's where it's like, find someone that resonates with you and speaks the same language and has like those recent events that have changed and altered their lives, that can speak more to kind of what you're going through and when.
Yeah, totally. And that makes me think, what do you say to people who look at someone like Tony or like Alex and they're feeling intimidated or afraid to even get started, or they have this imposter syndrome? Because that's like such a human thing, right? To compare ourselves to others, especially with social media.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's not that you should be intimidated or I mean they're people too, just like anyone else. It's just their per hour cost is a little bit a lot higher than you and I.
Sure.
Uh, but it's really you know it's not the intimidation. It's just you need to put yourself in the context of, are they speaking the language that is going to spur me to take action,
Mm.
or are they speaking a language to which ultimately that's where I want to get, but what they're talking about or the language they're using or the references that they're taking are just like, it doesn't make me want to take action. It's like, yeah, I want to go to a Tony Robbins event. Okay, that's great, but what are you doing after it? Like, what action are you taking? Because it's great to go, it's an event for sure, and you get to see it all and everything like that. But in terms of your own personal development, is it spurring you to make a change, or is it just like, I can cross it off a list? I saw Tony in Miami, or I saw Dean in Cabo or whatever. And that's what you should be looking for in a coach, is someone that inspires you to take action and make a change.
Yeah, totally. And especially with some of those big shows. I mean, Tony Robbins is fantastic live. Like, go see him. It's like going to a concert, right? You
Oh
leave
yeah.
with that high, 12-hour a day concert, and you leave with that high. So, what is it that you find most inspires people to take action? Because as we both know, we can't really change other people, right? It's they have to have that desire. And that's probably one of the most difficult things as a coach, is that you can't force anyone to do anything, right? You can kind
Right.
of give this blueprint, give this roadmap. So I'm just curious, one coach to another, what do you find inspires people the most?
I think it's a combination of a couple things. It's the inspiration of what could be, that carrot that's out in front of everyone in the world, that okay, if I do this and I do it to the full effort, I know what that looks like I know where I'm going.
Mhm.
And then unfortunately, I think part of the inspiration too is the exact opposite. Like, if I don't do that, what what's changing? Or am I going to start falling off of the cliff? Am I going to start cycling down in my life because I'm not actually making progress, or I'm stagnant? And we all know in today's day and world, if you're not moving up, then you're moving down. I mean, because everyone else, other people are growing as well. So I think it's a combination of, the carrot of, if I take these steps, I know what I can create, and I know that I'm capable of it, and truly that belief that, and it is, you're right, you can't force it on anyone. It is a self-confidence, self-belief that I can see a path, and that's why you have to pick the right coach. I hear what you're saying. That is inspiring me. It makes sense to me. I can see myself doing that, and then it just becomes the carrot. And then the most inspiring thing is actually when you get into it, and then you start making progress, because then the trajectory of your life, it goes from little progress to it just goes straight up, because all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can do this. And all of a sudden your body, you're starting to be like, what's next? What's more? What else can I take on? What else can I do? Maybe my goal with my wealth or my relationships wasn't high enough. And
Mhm.
that's a great question. I love when I get that question. It wasn't high enough. good. Keep going then. Get to that level and then push through and keep going. Um, because it's amazing what you can create for yourself when you just start.
Yeah, it's like you get hooked. I'm just letting my dog in. You get hooked on that result that you see, right? It's almost like you ride a high. And I think people like you and I are so hooked on our own personal development because we've seen that before. And I love what you said, is that you said something about if they can see themselves doing it. So it's almost like breaking it into those bite-sized chunks where it's like, okay, this is actually attainable. Like I can do this one small step, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, all this change happened from it. And then, yeah.
Well, and that's, we've talked about it before. You're not comparing yourself to what you're seeing on the internet, to your neighbors.
Right.
Your only comparison is to yourself the day before. And that, if you're just getting that 1% better, when you're thinking about it, it's like, I can do that. And then the next day you're like, God, I can do that too. And then after a week goes by or 2 weeks, all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm like way better than when I started. I can keep on this path because it's achievable goals, because your progress is only measured by yourself from the day before. And when you start to feel that progress, and then then you look back 6 months later, a year later, and you're like, I don't even recognize who I was. Like, look at all, but none of it seems like a huge leap because you just did it little step by little step, instead of, make 2024 the best year ever and make $1 billion and this and that. And it's like, that's not going to happen. Like, the only way you're making $1 billion in 2024 is if you end 2023 with 900 million. Let's just be honest, but if you break it down, anything's achievable, and every step gives you confidence.
I love that. I love that idea of not setting these crazy unrealistic goals because they're so much harder to stick to, right? If it's like on January 1st, right? So I own a yoga company too, and January, February, yoga studios are freaking packed. March, April, no, it just like trickles off because people set these crazy unrealistic goals for themselves, right? They're like, I'm going to work out for an hour 7 days a week, and then I'm gonna go for a nightly walk, and I'm gonna meditate for an hour. And it's like sometimes it becomes so overwhelming that people can't even, they drop off, right?
Well, so I've got a little bit of a different take on it.
Yeah,
I think when you set your goal,
yeah,
there should only be two things that it has to match up with. One is that you can do it and you can be consistent with it every day for the rest of your life.
yeah.
And two, that it should have a huge positive impact on the rest of your life. And your goal, that end result, should not be limited. Make it as big and bold as you want. Where you need to be more realistic is when you get to your how. Like, how am I going to get from where I sit today to ultimately where I want to go, knowing that there's a lot of steps? That's your realism. That's your attainable step by step by step by step process. But people fail to see their resolutions. One of the big ones is their goal isn't big enough. It doesn't motivate them. It doesn't inspire them. They go into the year, they're like, this is a year I'm going to lose 10 pounds. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. What are you doing for February? It's because it stops becoming inspiring to them because they hit it and then they just check it off, and then they spend the next 11 months gaining it back or doing whatever. And so that's where you have to have that goal be as big as you want, as long as it's something that you can commit to doing every day for the rest of your life, and that it has a huge positive impact on the rest of your life. So that's that mind shift that we're talking about. It's not short time, it's lifetime,
Yeah.
you know, when you're setting that ultimate goal.
Yeah, I like that. Makes me think about that saying like, "Oh yeah, I lost 100 pounds last year, but it was the same 10 pounds 10 different times because I kept gaining it back." And I think that when something is really important to you, you prioritize it, right? So maybe that's when things start feeling really good, when things start making that positive impact that you're talking about, then you're more inspired to keep doing it every day.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that you have to do as you go into anything. You have to identify what is your true inspiration. Like, what is that core purpose, that deeply seated fire that's in you that you're like, I'm not failing because I can't fail. For me, it was my kids, right? Like, I'm not failing my kids,
Yeah.
and that it still echoes to this day. But it's you got to figure that out, and then as you do make progress, you don't even have to think about it. Your body, your mind, your soul, it devours progress, and it just wants so much more. And you gotta keep. It's like I wanted to stop, but I couldn't. Like, I had to keep going
Yeah.
because I felt like if I didn't, something was missing in my life, and it's like that's where you want to get to,
Yeah.
because there's no such thing as a finished product. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter who you are, be it Elon Musk or Bezos or whoever. They're still seeking growth.
Absolutely. You have that hunger, that drive inside of you. We were just talking about this at dinner last night, my husband and my in-laws and I, that people like Elon Musk, like one of the richest men in the world, all he does is work, right? He's still sleeping in his office sometimes. And
Yeah,
we know people like that in our personal life who are not billionaires, but certainly have several millions, and all they do is work because it's that drive. It fulfills them. It gives them purpose.
yeah. Well, and they've identified that as one of their inspiration, and what is that drive. Other people, it's like, you know, you can put 1,000 people in a room and ask 1,000 people, like, what is your best life? Define it, and you're going to get 1,000 different answers. And some are going to go more Elon, and other people are going to be like, you know what? I just want to get to the point to where I can go on a vacation when I want, and I don't have to worry about like waiting for 2 weeks for a paycheck. That is my best life. That's awesome. Let's get it. Because what'll happen is you'll start to make progress. You'll get to that stage, and then you'll be like, all right, I was a little short sighted. I actually want, and you'll start to level up.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. As you see more and more possibilities opening up before you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah, it's a heads up society. Like, there's opportunity everywhere. Don't be looking on the concrete in front of you for it.
yeah.
Like, look around.
So I love this idea that you said about how we're basically meant for growth. And I think that too, life is always seeking greater, fuller expression through you. So what do you think is going on with so many people who aren't achieving their goals, aren't achieving their dreams?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot that goes into it. There's societal stuff. There's, their friends and family who, as being an entrepreneur, when you started out being an entrepreneur, the worst advice you got was from your friends and your family.
It's very true.
It just happens. But that pressure of people saying, "Hey, you're doing good. Just stay the status quo," or you start to get to the point to where there's some security in. I know how much I'm making. I know the family's taken care of. We've got our 2 yearly vacations that we go on, and you start to, for lack of a better term, you start to settle, and
Mm,
you start to get comfortable in that realm. And it's something that people that grow are constantly growing. They they get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like they're, just constantly putting ourselves in new and different and, ooh, I don't know about this type of situations, but we're still going forward. We're, digging into it because you never know when that opportunity is going to be there. And I think the biggest thing that holds people back is fear. It's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of trying something and not succeeding. It's that little voice inside of everyone's head that always creeps up like, okay, I'm going to do this. And that little voice goes, well, but what if, what if, what if, what if? And ultimately what happens is then you go right back. And we talked about it earlier. That's one of the things that I talk to people about to combat that is instead of like getting to that point, because fear is natural. Anytime you're going to do something new, it fear is a natural like emotion that you're going to go through. But when that voice starts talking about, well, what if, what if, what if, what if, and you start knocking you back down, think about it as, well, what if I do it? It works. Well, what then? It's like, what will my life be if this actually works? And sometimes that helps people is to take your ultimate, like your best life and engineer it backwards instead of starting now. Start with where you want to end up and work down and work backwards and say, and eliminate things that you don't want and put in things that you absolutely know you want and work that way because you'll start to see it's like, like with gratitude, you could start with one thing a day. I'm healthy, right? Like I'm alive. That starts. That's great. You're grateful and thankful. And that's something that's going right in your life is that you are alive. But that list starts to grow as you start to dig into it and think about it. Same thing with your goals. You'll start to see more opportunities than you will obstacles, and then you're going to start getting on that path.
I love that so much because that's so much of what I work with people on too is creating that perfect dream life, right? Or that perfect, you can even do it with yourself, right? You can say, what is that perfect person that I want to be? Who do I want to be? And then it's like,
Mhm.
well, how does that person dress? How does that person speak? How do they carry themselves? What kind of conversations do they have? Who do they hang around? And like you said, you can really reverse engineer this. Um, so what about limiting beliefs? How do those play a part? I know we were talking about fear. I don't know. I think they're sort of similar, but I think there's a little bit of a difference there. I'd love to just hear your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, limiting beliefs are just that's that little voice in your head that's like it doesn't start to punch holes in it. It starts to say things like, well, you're not good enough to do that, or only superstars get there, or your family isn't built that way, or your dad never got there, or your family never did that. And we've talked about it like ages 0 through 7, it's all download, right?
Yeah.
And those beliefs get put into you like, God knows, go to high school, go to college, get a degree, go to work for some place. And it limits people because it becomes a core belief of theirs. And it's something that I kind of look at that as limiting beliefs are made to be broken.
Oh,
They're made to be just crushed. Like, and it takes confidence, it takes self-confidence, it takes belief in yourself to look at yourself in the mirror, take a hard look and say, you know what? Everyone's saying that I should be at X. Forget them. I'm going to Y. Like you were talking about, like, you know, what does the person, that ideal person, what do they dress like, what do they do, where do they hang out? It's the old adage, if you want to be a millionaire, go hang out with millionaires.
yeah.
Like, don't go hang out with the group at Starbucks. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but they're not at that level. They're having different conversations, they're having different interactions, So put yourself in that situation. And if you're not one, no one cares. It's not like there's a business card or something or a secret handshake that you got to give. You just show up and just be a human being and go have conversations. Listen, pay attention to what's going on, because the most successful people will tell you exactly how they got.
I love that advice so much. And it goes back to what two things we were talking about before. One, they're just freaking people, right? And two, you mentioned this earlier, and I took down a note to bring it back, and you just brought it back so beautifully. You made a comment about how you and I and people like us learn from mentors, learn from free resources online. And there is so much information out there, especially with books. All of these people who are writing books, that's 100 pages worth of their best advice. And it's just
Yeah.
out there for you. If you want it, it's out there for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't, and when you get those books, like, don't think that you're buying it for 100% of what's covered. You're not. You're buying it. Like, I buy books because I can pick stuff up and I get some great quotes and some great just guidance and a different perspective on things. And, I got a highlighter and a pad and a paper, and I'm just like going through and taking that stuff that I'm learning, and I'm turning around and incorporating it into like what I coach on and what I help people with. Because regardless, I'm going to read more than, well, pretty much a lot of people, maybe except for you. But it's the perspective of, okay, I'm going to buy a 300-page book. If I get like 3 or 4 things out of this, this was worth it. Because I can take those things and those concepts and those thoughts, that perspective, and sometimes it changes or shapes a little bit of kind of your view on things.
Yeah.
And that's really what you want. A lot of successful people, like you were talking about, like, we have coaches and mentors and stuff like that. Like, it's not because we want cheerleaders. Like, I want a coach that has a different perspective, that might completely disagree with a lot of the stuff that I say or do, but I value their perspective because they give me the opposite of my thoughts. And sometimes it's like, ooh, I'm really glad I didn't do that because you were right about X, Y, and Z. And then there's other times where I look and I'm like, I don't, that's great that you have a different perspective. I'm still going.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's people who have walked the path, right? Like, I have a business coach who's teaching me all this marketing stuff, all this other stuff, and he's doing it, right? And I've never done it, but he's making 7 figures doing it. So it's like, those are the people that you want to learn from, the people that have done it and walked the path. And it also goes back to what we were saying, I think, before we pressed record, about how someone might say something that just resonates different. Like, when you're reading all of these books, like, you might have been explaining something a very specific way to your clients, and then they're saying the same thing in that book, but they just word it different, and it just clicks with people different.
Yeah.
Right? Or at different stages in people's journey, it clicks with them different. So yeah, I love that you're such a book nerd like I am, because, and you and I've had so many conversations. I know we talked about this once, but there's not really that much new information out there. But what we can do is we can learn from all of these sources. We can read all these books. We can learn from these coaches, go to these workshops, take the bits that helped us the most on our journey, and then distill them for other people and put them together in a new way that's going to help people that maybe aren't going to read those 100 books in the last 6 months that you and I have read, right? So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, another term, like, if you want to look at a coach, the best kind of term that it truly describes us is we're conduits.
I
We
love
take
that.
we take our personal experience, we take all of the stuff that we're doing to help educate ourselves, reading, seminars, everything that comes out that's like, hey, join us for this. It's like, great, I'll spend an hour, and if I get one thing, I'm good. And we're just conduits. So we take all that we distill it, and then we just turn around and give it away. Not, I mean, to our coaching clients and be like, look, guys, like this is a different perspective, a different way of saying it, a different way of looking at it. Because in the end, we want our clients to succeed. The more that our clients succeed, that's the true like measuring stick of what you and I do is how well those our clients, how well they do. And that's, I mean, it's a huge sense of pride for both of us when like you get people that just like that moment they have and it clicks, and all of a sudden they go from like you know sitting like this to they're like this, and they're animated and they're louder and their confidence is up, and they start asking about, well, what's next, and it's like, okay, like you've established a new level of you, let's go. Because it starts to feed the other people in the group, like anything else, like what are you having, I want some of that.
Yeah.
And it just starts to feed, and all of a sudden you get a huge group that starts doing that. And that's the aim, is like taking society and just getting people to own their own lives and make their own choices and what truly makes them happy.
Absolutely. And I love that. Like seeing clients have breakthroughs is why we do this work.
Oh yeah.
It's literally why we do all the work. And I mean, I feel like I can speak for you, like just like me, it's like your mission, your purpose on this planet to help other people.
Yeah,
So
no, you're absolutely right. That's very true.
So, is there some common thread that you found that people need to just give them that like little boost to get over the edge, to get over the hump if they're feeling stuck? Like, what is there that one thing that you found? And maybe there's not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, there is, and for each individual, how they find it is different. But the one thread that the people that succeed the most have is clarity.
Hmm. I love
They they know where they're going. And so all these clouds and fog and storms and all this stuff starts to come in on them, and they don't care because they're like, I'm going this way. And you can crowd me and try and knock me off course or knock me down or whatever. I see clearly, I know where I'm going. And so that's the biggest key, is like being clear. And like I said, that's part of the homework that I have people do before they ever sign up, is like, are you living your best life? If the answer is no, what does it look like? And be very clear about it, because it gives you like, okay, I know where I'm going, because people don't think about it, right? They
exactly.
they go to Instagram and they're like, I want that boat and I want to go to that castle and I want to go do this and do that. And it's like, but what does it mean for you? Like, be clear about what you actually where you're going. Um, you know, you're going to have course corrections along the way. Just don't let it get in the way of your path and what you're clearly going for. That's the one key, I think. And that's, I'll speak for you now. I think that's for both of us, is that providing clarity to yourself is the one key thing that's going to keep you pushing forward, because until you get to where you want to go, it's still out in front of you.
I love that answer so much. Yeah, it's like you have that North Star.
Yeah.
And no, I absolutely love that answer. So you're talking about how those people that are so focused, and by the way, I do want to say a lot of clients come to me and they have no freaking idea what they want. So
Yeah.
part of what we do is helping them get clear, because they do know, but they're so stuck in what they don't want, right? They're so stuck in the daily grind of work, money, sleep, entertainment, and it's hard for them to see a vision. So working with a coach, even anyone, but especially Todd, especially me, you're gonna get your vision really clear. And so you mentioned something. You said, okay, so if people are really clear on their vision, they have that North Star they're looking at. It doesn't matter what fog comes in, what challenges. But there are so many people who have a goal, they have a dream, they're not working with a coach probably, and challenges come up or adversities come up, or it doesn't happen on the first or the second or the fifth try, and they end up giving up, right? Or they end up getting overwhelmed. Like, what do you say to those people? How do you help those people?
Well, the biggest thing is, like, once you've done your self discovery to identify your true north star, right? Like, do the exercise. Like, people talk about all the time. Go 24 hours and say nothing negative. Just do it. 24 hours, you can't say one negative thing. It's the same thing with your north star. Like, when you're thinking of like where you want to be, you can't say anything negative. It has to be positive, like I'm going to, or put yourself there. Like, write your goals as if you already live them. Like, don't write I'm going to be a millionaire, right? I am a millionaire. So once you get that identified, after that you need to identify, well, what's hindered you in the past? Like, what's come up? What obstacles did you face that ultimately knocked you around a little bit, knocked you back, made you stop? Like, what are those items that are in your life, and in those 4 or 5 times that you've tried before, what ultimately was it that you faced that either you became a challenge for you, or were your hard line, like, I can't do this, I'm going to go backwards to wherever I was before. And then identify, okay, when this comes up again, because it will come up again, what is your game plan?
I love
And you think about that, and if you put together your game plan before you actually launch into whatever it is that you're doing, when those things do come up, you're the Titanic. You see an iceberg 100 miles ahead, and it's sitting out there, but you're just going to start to gradually make your turn way ahead of time. And sometimes you don't even see the obstacle, right? It's just like, oh, that happened, but I was way over here already. Instead of being a speedboat, because that's what happens to people. They're like, I got to make progress, and they go, 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 and then an obstacle shows up, and they're going way too fast, way too hard. They're way too close to where there's no alternative but to turn sideways and potentially go back. So it's identifying those things ahead of time and come up with a game plan. It could be you got to go around it, could be you got to go over it, could be you got to go through it, whatever ultimately it is. But have that discussion with yourself to say, like, if let's say it's health, and you're like, I'm just going to go for a walk every single day. Okay, well, what's happened in the past? Well, holidays. Okay, well, what's your plan? Or it started raining. Okay, well, what's your plan? It started, winter came. Okay, what's your plan? Like, identifying those things that derailed you, and just come up with an alternative plan to keep making progress.
Super smart. Such great advice that listeners can just take right away. So do you think people can truly change?
I have.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, and my journey started with me being unhealthy, well, not eating good, not active. And I made the decision that, because my kids, I wanted to be an active participant in their lives with them, not on the sidelines going, here's $20, go have fun. But I wanted to show them what life was about, and just the opportunities that are out there. I changed my entire direction. To the fact that now, like, I coach people on it. And it's just because it's not what I do anymore. It's like, it's who I am. Like, I still go for a walk every single day, and I still am active every single day. And it doesn't matter, rain, shine, whatever. I've got alternative plans already in place that you don't have to think about anymore. It's just you wake up, you look out, it's like, ooh, snowing. I already know what I'm doing. So yeah, I absolutely believe that people can change. And the thing to keep in mind is if you truly want to retool yourself, give yourself a year, but just keep in mind you do not need permission to retool yourself. I don't care what age you are. If you want something different, do something different.
And you know what's really cool about that is that you are probably inspiring your kids without even realizing it. You're probably making them more active people, right? And making them more confident people. And that's what happens when you work on your own personal development. You affect your circles, right? And then they affect their circles, and you rise up, and everyone else rises to meet you at your level, especially
Yeah.
kids, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, well, it's like you and I've done it. You can bark at your kids 1,000 times about you need to do this, you need to do that, and they don't listen at all. But yet, when you're focused on yourself and your journey, and you've got your why, and you know why it's important, and I shared it with my kids. Like I told them flat out, like, this is what I'm doing. You guys are why I'm doing it, and I went through and listed everything. And they're like, I told them, I was like, I need help from you guys. If I feel like not going, you need to get on me. And my daughter was the first to be like, I'll do that. Um, you know,
Give it to the girl.
oh yeah, no, she it was like 3 weeks after, and it was snowing, and I was cooking breakfast, and she comes downstairs and she goes, "Hey dad, you going for your walk today?" And I was like, "Oh," I said, "I'm gonna see what the weather does, but yes, I'm going. I just want to see if it'll clear up." And without even hesitation, she just looked me straight in the eye and she goes, "You mean now?" I was like,
Love her.
okay, yes, I do. And I went. And the moment that what that taught me the most, and it still gives me chills to think about, that moment in one microcosm of a comment taught me that because it was important to me and I had shared that with them, it was important to them as well.
Mm.
And that I mean that will drive me every day for the rest of my life, that you know I'm important to them just as much as they are important to me.
And it talks to accountability too, right? Sometimes telling other people your goals and dreams can really help you keep accountable as long as you're telling the right people, right?
Well, and when you tell people, how they react will tell you very quickly, are they going to be part of your circle moving forward or not? And it's no one wants to talk about it, but as you grow and evolve, your circle will change.
Yeah.
There, you're going to have cheerleaders. You're going to have people that are joining you, and then you're going to have people that they don't like it. They want to keep you in the status quo. But the ball is in your court at that point. Do you want what's your association? Like, are you still going to like hang out, but not as much? You're not going to partake in that stuff, or are you going to look at it as, look, man, as great as this is, you're an anchor, and I'm cutting the chain.
Yeah, that's so important. And the other part of that you kind of mentioned is that as you start to change and grow and your life starts to evolve, new people are going to enter it that are on that new higher level. It's like you
Oh
change
yeah.
frequency, you change vibration.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look at us. I mean, honestly, like we're a perfect example of it. Like our two worlds did not intertwine anyway
Yeah.
until about like whatever it was, a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
You know, we've this is our third different time together, and we've shared a bunch of stuff and stories, and it's just because we speak about the same types of stuff, but we're both ready. We were both in the mode, emotionally, confidence wise, whatever, to where we accepted, like, hey, we're basically kind of talking about the same thing to a lot of the same audience. And I'm perfectly happy with that. And you're perfectly happy with it because you resonate with some, I resonate with others. And, it goes to just this whole industry and in general is that as you start to gain confidence and you start to level up, you become an attractor. Like people just start finding their way into your life without you searching them out.
It's so true. And I've been doing a lot of podcast interviews, like being an interviewee on other shows just to promote my book. And at first it was just to promote my book, but I have made so many amazing connections. I mean, like
Oh,
you said, I met you, and so many of them I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I love this conversation. I love talking to you. Come on my show. Let's keep talking. Let's keep the conversation going." And I mean, it's building your network, right? It's
yeah.
being around other people who are like-minded. And by the way, it's so good for even for us to be around and have these conversations just to remind ourselves about this kind of stuff, right? Because
Oh,
we're
yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's like, either you'll say something or I'll say something. And it'll be like, oh yeah, crap. I did talk about that. And then I left talking. That's a good point. I got to remember that I do talk about this stuff. But yeah, and people will find that. I promise you. Like as you start to level up your life, you will find more people like that want to hang out with you and want to be associated with you. We've all, if you're in a bad mindset, you look at it and you're like, God, that guy, he's always busy. He's always got people coming up to him. He's got it made. No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
That you see the top 10% of that iceberg. You don't see the 90% below that's kicking like mad to keep progress and keep going up. And that 10% that you see, that's just the result of all of that work. And it's because they have changed their path and their trajectory to where people want to associate with them.
It's so true. And you also don't see the years and years and years of work that they've probably put in to
Oh
get to
yeah.
that point.
Yeah. I mean, getting to the stage where you and I are, or where anyone is, where they're starting to like be like, okay, this is working. It's I'm establishing this. I'm starting to gain notoriety or clientele or progress, whatever. It's like it takes time. It takes effort. It takes like paying attention to sometimes the smallest little details that get you there. And that's that 90% of the iceberg that's below the surface that no one sees, but you're kicking like mad down there to keep going.
And I think that's such a good message for people who are comparing themselves to social media. It's like comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, right? There's so much more that you're not seeing that's going into all of that.
No one's out there posting like, you know, them getting up at 5 o'clock to go work out, you know, and if they do, it's followed very quickly by a success video of, see, I got up early and worked out, and look at the rest of my day was fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, you're absolutely right. It's you're individually, you're going to put in that hard work, and you might be the only person that sees it. Who cares? Like,
Exactly. I love that. Because you're doing it for you, right? At the end of the
yep.
day.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite stories. I had this client who she just it clicked like week 6. She was just like you could just tell like she got it, and I was like, I asked her. I said, Katie, what happened? Like what changed? And she's like, two things. She goes, one, she's like, I went and I didn't have to think about like my physical journey. She's like, I didn't have to think about it. And she's like, two, people stopped asking me about what I was doing to get fit. Like they just stopped because like this was the new level of me.
It just
And
became
she's
who
like,
she is.
and And then the coolest thing is she goes, what was really cool was one of my friends came to me and said, "Hey, I'm really proud of you. You're doing really well. I'm happy that you've made this progress." And she goes, "That wasn't the cool part. The cool part is in my head. I looked at her and I thought, wait until you see what I do next."
Hell yeah. I love that. That
I
gave
was
me
like,
goosebumps.
I was like, oh my God, Kate, like you're just like, you're gonna explode onto the scene of what I don't even, whatever she's doing in life. Like, I'm like, you have nailed it. And just seeing her light up when she said that, because I knew it was true. You know, you could just feel it. She's like, wait until you see what I do next. And I was like, yeah, I'm glad I get to be here with you because
Hell
she's
yeah.
she's killing it.
I love that. Ah, that gave me goosebumps. And I think that's also such a good message for people out there who are like, there's going to be haters, right? But especially if you're doing something where you're putting yourself out in public on the internet, like you and I both put out content. But if you can have that attitude about it, you're like, all right, there's haters out there. That means I'm doing something right. And just wait till what I do next. You're going to be even more pissed. But I'm
Yeah,
gonna keep going. It doesn't matter what you think.
yeah. It's that's exactly it. It's like I'm putting my face and my voice and my thoughts and everything, and I'm posting it, all intending just to stir up something in people to, be like, to think about something, to email me, to whatever. And your response to that is you send me an anonymous direct message that says that X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, that's, thank you. I'm going to keep going, you
Yeah.
know, and that's exactly it. It's like that attitude of just wait until you see what I do next. It's, it's like that old adage. I've got whatever posters all over my house, but one of them is like, uh, you don't have to advertise the work that you put in. Let the results speak for themselves. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what you and I do. It's like we don't show that 90% kicking. It's just that top 10%. But at some point, it gets to that stage. And then it's like people just start to take notice. They're like, why do I keep seeing the same faces and the same names every time that I look for development or inspiration? These people keep showing up. There's a reason.
Exactly. Exactly. And my spiritual side is also like, you're also attracting us. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, do the work, put yourself out there, and people are going to find you. People are going to notice you. And the especially when you're starting out, it is so hard. It is so overwhelming and intimidating, and I feel for everyone that's in that. But you have to know that your message is unique and you have something important to share, and you're going to say it in a way that no one else can, and you just have to keep going and keep putting yourself out there, and you're going to hit that tipping point that we're talking about, right? Where suddenly people are noticing, and people are noticing the progress and the work, and they're like, hey, that's someone I want to learn from.
Right. That's exactly it. Like, it'll, you could be saying the same thing, and then that 50th time that you say it is the one time that you say it that someone's like, wait, now it makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to email that person, or I'm going to call them, or I'm going to look at this right now because that made sense. And it's just, it's, all the work that we're putting in, like reading and online, whatever you want to call them, webinar stuff and trainings and all that stuff. It's all with intent, yes, to get our message out there, but with all good intentions. Like, we want to help as many people as possible. And the last thing that you or I want in our lives is to be a coach that's in the witness protection program. That does no one any good.
Yeah.
right? So it's like we're putting ourselves out there. So stop the bad comments, people. I'm just kidding.
I know. I know. The internet trolls. Yeah. The thing is like most of those people are coming from their own pain and their own fear, right? So, if someone is, your time, energy, and attention are your currency in this world. And if someone is spending that attacking a stranger online, you've got to feel bad for them to some point, right? Because that's what kind of life
Well,
is that?
yeah, it's there's something else going on that
Yeah.
they're in their lives that's their outlet,
Yeah.
and that's why you can you just you don't even look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like that's great. It's
There's,
like
yeah.
I mean, how many hats does this guy have? It's like I got a lot of hats. So,
And you're not insulting me by pointing it out. Yeah.
and
Have you
I could wear a new one pretty much every day.
Have you seen that Brene Brown talk where she found that, I think it was Benjamin Franklin quote about if people aren't in the arena with you doing the hard work with the sweat and the blood on their face, then you can't even, because what is it? Like, you know what? I'm just going to find it and read it because it's that good. And we're going to do that right now. You're going to love it. Okay. I found it. All right. Listen to this. Okay. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. Like, oh my God, I just got goosebumps. Isn't that so powerful?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is, and well, that all speaks to it, but I think the one thing that people out there listening, what they can take from that is when you have those doubts and you have those fears and you're looking at something thinking, I don't know if I want to do this, keep the one thing in mind: you are worthy.
Mm,
That's the one that was the one piece that I was like, that speaks to everyone out there. It's like, if you are not going to take a chance on yourself, who are you taking a chance on?
yeah.
So dare to be great, like you said.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. And I feel like you and I could literally talk for hours, and I just looked at the clock and we've been going for over an hour. So, and it's funny, usually I start these off by being like, give me your background. What do you do? And we just kind of launch straight into it because I think I was just so excited to talk to you. So, tell people what Project 9 is, tell people how they can work with you, what you do,
Yeah.
they can find you, all the good stuff.
Yeah. So my coaching company is called Project 9 Life. Uh, email us at info@project9life.com, and I will tell you at that call why it's called Project 9. I'll save that for a story for a little bit later.
Well, you're gonna have to tell me because now I'm in suspense.
I know, I will. But it's a very simple coaching program. So you get a few things with it. First is just a complimentary discovery call. It's a half hour. We just want to know where you're coming from, where you want to go, and how we can help you. It has to be a two-way street. I have to resonate with you, and I have to be able to help you at the same point. And then once from there, then you're going to get an introductory worksheet, an introductory video that's going to explain how the worksheet works. And then it's 8 weeks worth of once a week group Zoom calls that we're going to have a community around. So you're going to have people at different stages. Some will be week 1, some will be week 6. But the intent there is to put everyone together, and it's a little bit of learning, a little bit of teaching. It's a lot of sharing and learning from each other. I take furious notes during the classes because some of the things that people share with each other are absolute gold. Like in terms of, I was faced with an obstacle and this is what I did. And I'm like, damn, like that was a good idea. And I'm writing stuff down. And over the course of that 8 weeks, I can promise you, you will make progress. If you go through and you get your clarity, you identify your why, and you commit to what you're saying that you're going to commit to, you will start to make progress. And towards the end, it's going to start going faster. And at that point, then you become, Katie, and she's like, yeah, wait until you see what happens next. And I look forward to working with you and talking to you. And, it's a complimentary call. So most it's going to cost you is a half hour out of your day. And
Awesome.
it could change your life.
There you go. Reach out to Todd, email him. I'm going to have all of his links in the show notes so you can find them. You don't even have to remember. You can just click it or copy paste, and go check out my work as well. My email or my website is krisashley.net. You can find my book, Change Your Mind to Change Your Reality, in paperback, ebook, audiobook. And Todd, thank you so much for being here. I always enjoy our conversations, and I'm grateful our paths have crossed, and I have a feeling they're going to keep crossing. So thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kris. It was great to be here. I appreciate it. And thanks to everyone that's watching.